Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We're going to talk about scary stories to tell in the dark. This is produced by Guillermo del Toro, which means he made it. That's how everyone's interpreting it.
Yep. Throw another one on the pile of directors whose names people won't learn.
No, this is from Andre Overlord, as I call him. Overdahl.
I do not know how exactly the slashy O gets pronounced. If you're
O
from
is
that
silent.
part of the world.
So is the V. It's just
Vidal.
It's Riddall. John, did you read the books growing up? Because I did not.
Yes, I got in trouble, actually, for checking these books too much out of our school library with Miss June. Shouts out if you're still alive. I was always into spooky stuff, so I would read the stories, but I was especially captivated by the illustrations, because those are chilling.
That's what I hear is the most memorable. See, I got in trouble for making out with girls in the back of my pickup truck.
Well, you missed out on a lot of nights you could have been sleeping.
I had good times headbanging to classic Metallica back in the day.
Yeah.
Before we go into this, I would like to thank everyone who has downloaded and followed us over on the Stardust app. Over there, we do 30-second reaction reviews for any film, TV show, and or trailer. You can post your own stuff on there as well. Completely free to download, completely free to use. We talk about a lot of things that we don't get to talk about on YouTube, and if you want to get our opinions as early as possible, follow us there. On to the movie review in and of itself. I quite enjoyed this film. I thought that it was really spooky. It was really fun. I forgot it was PG-13. I spent like the first half hour going, what rating is this movie? Because
most
this
of the movie
is pretty
doing
violent. Yeah. To really play that line of like, we're almost at R, but we're not quite there yet. So I didn't read the books, so this was my introduction to this whole world and the lore. I thought that the execution of it was really tense. I found it to be kind of, this might be a weird word to use. I thought it was pretty sincere in its approach.
That's a good word for it.
Felt pretty traditional, I would say.
Classic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the elements of this movie have been criticized for, having overly familiar tropes that you've seen in other horror films, or things that are cliche in terms of like reveals or understanding the mystery of the story. To me, I'm like, no, it's kind of the point in a lot of ways. It doesn't only rely on those things.
And the stories themselves are derived from urban legends and myths and other things,
Yeah, and I felt like I got the gist of it. It's called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, so it feels like classic. I never sat around a campfire and told horror stories, but I imagine this is what it would be like.
While you were making out with all those girls, you missed out on some great
comparing penis sizes with all your Cub Scout friends. Yeah,
that's what we got badges for.
This movie, basically, it takes place in what, the 60s, 70s?
68.
I should know that. It's revolving right around the time when Nixon is about to be elected for president, It takes place in a small town, and there's this group of kids. Think Losers Club, think Stranger Things. The kind of kids you're into for these sorts of horror films.
Regular, relatable, small-town kids.
Yeah, one's really kind of obnoxious and irreverent, and the other one is one's kind of cool.
He's a straight man.
There's a girl in there.
Yeah,
this time, the girl's the main character. Kind of like all of the other ones. The one girl, she's the standout, isn't she?
But at least the group isn't as big in this one.
They stumble upon a book in a haunted house, and basically this book starts writing stories that start coming to life that involve the main kids. So think of it like this. It's a serialized anthology type of movie, but it's not exactly how that sounds, because there's a main narrative weaves in an anthology tale, but the anthology tale doesn't cut away to look at characters you have no idea who they are. It's an anthology tale of a different type of creature or monster that involves one of the main characters.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slasher movie, but if every time you cut away to a character about to get slashed, it's not, the same killer. It's like a totally different aesthetic with a totally different ghost story theme around it.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really smart approach, because from my understanding, that's not how the books work, so they had to...
Well, they're just little short stories.
Yeah, so they had to weave it in where you had an actual narrative. And the creatures in the film, I thought were great. Some stuff has been criticized for lackluster CGI in certain elements. For me, I didn't care about that.
I wasn't bothered. The filmmaking around it, what it's doing and how it's doing it, is good enough to drive the rest of the scariness home. And overall, I thought they did use a nice blend of practical CG and character performance effects.
Yeah, all the creatures or monsters, whatever you want to call them, the ghouls, they are teased in the trailer, like with the scarecrow, the pale lady.
Yeah, right? From the Dream story.
The Pillsbury Dough Girl.
Yes, yes, that's right. And
that was an interesting character because people laughed when she first came on, and then it was terrifying as it proceeded. And then the Jangling Man.
the Jangly Man, yeah.
He's a great character. Like, the effects on him were awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. And that's a character that is comprised of elements from the stories, but is kind of an original addition to this.
Yes, like, this is a very direct film. It's straightforward in what it wants to do, but because of that, it has a really great energy and pace about it, where I was always enveloped in what was going on. Granted, I was always most interested when, one of these cool creature stories was going on. That's when it's like the most fascinating. That's when it's supposed to be the most exciting. Yeah. So I thought it handled that really well. Based off like illustrations I've seen that people have put up on social media, I feel like it's a good blend of what we've seen of Del Toro produced flicks plus traditional scary stories to tell in the dark, or maybe scary stories to tell in the dark was kind of the art style that has influenced the works of Guillermo del Toro. That's more likely the case, So it just makes sense that he would be involved in this when you see the designs. The way how they capture the designs I thought was great because they were so confident in showcasing them and knowing when to showcase them. A lot of horror movies kind of only showcase their monsters for the jump scare moment. I'm really flashing to like the Conjuring universe. The key to make them scary is barely show them. This movie knew when to hide them, when to keep it mysterious, when to have fun with them, when to have a little bit of camp with some of the approach to certain characters here, but then also know when to just let's put the camera on them. This will actually make it scarier if we stay with the character on camera as opposed to trying to mask it or hide it or not show it moving,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is they also let the characters become characters over time. So everybody who starts out as an archetype, the situations become scarier as they become more kind of real. And this movie had like an emotional core I wasn't expecting to, because it's like there
Grief?
are well,
Grief?
there's a
it's
lot
every
of
horror movie. Grief.
But I did, while this is reminiscent of certain things, I thought of like The Haunting of Hill House or Goosebumps or Paranorman. They start out in their archetypes, and there is a familiar classic quality about this. But by the time we got a certain amount in, I was just like, yeah, I'm invested in everybody. And I thought the girl who Zoe Margaret Coletti, who played the lead, was like terrific.
Grace Randolph will disagree with you.
She didn't do a lot with it. I didn't think she brought nearly as much to the table personality-wise as her co-stars. And I thought actually her glasses, particularly at the very end of the movie, did most of her work for her.
I disagree with Grace Randolph then. I don't care.
YouTube wars.
Whatever.
YouTube wars. It's coming at you.
Yeah, look out, man. But I don't know. This was nice because I think this is an underserved corner of
YouTube wars.
Scary Stories Camp.
Star drama alert.
That's right. That's what I want.
To talk about the lead.
Let's get grade A under A back and see what we can do. Let's start just a whole beefatorium over here. Eli Roth.
What?
Well, anyway, this movie did something that a lot of other movies lately have been telling me they want to do, which is go back to like those older kind of like Amblin-esque horror, or like, kid-friendly horror movies where there's like real peril, but it's also fun and a little nostalgic. And this managed to do that without ever trying to tell me, or at least I never saw an interview where they're like, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, this is a horror movie.
This is a horror movie, and like I think we both forgot what it was rated at different times, because it's like scary. Intense.
There's some
nightmarish stuff in
eerie,
here.
unnerving, bone-chilling, nipple-chilling moments.
Yeah.
I don't ever go to the movies by myself, and I was by myself watching this, and I was pretty scared at times, honestly. Yeah. And there were moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's crazy.
I was twisting up and cringing.
Yeah,
I had
some
audible
really
reactions to
gross
things,
stuff
and
that
I went
was
alone, too. Definitely a movie that's going to make you squirm.
I started off with talking about it, and I'll end it with this. I'm very forgiving of anything that felt like cliche or overly reminiscent, because I did feel like that was the point. You got like this main bully character who we've seen a gajillion times. I felt like the point was to do sort of archetype characters like that for this world. Like, it takes place in the 60s, but these characters kind of feel like they're from the 50s. Mm-hmm. And then you have like the main dude, Ramon. The movie's pretty much telling you he's like Mexican James Dean. That's what the movie's pretty much saying to you.
Yeah. Even the archetypes play into the theme of the fact that stories, hurt and heal and stuff like that. And an archetype is a story in and of itself, and then over time, characters get revealed in ways.
It's not that deep.
I just
All
think
right.
that it's well crafted.
You just show up to watch Jason Statham and
It's
Dwayne
not-
Johnson make jokes at each other.
This is a classic horror story, and I do think that it really succeeds in elevating the parts that are familiar, playing them very genuinely. It has a really great cast, I thought, really well incorporates the stuff from the book. And I do want to give some respect to Andre Overdahl because I think he will get overshadowed by Guillermo del Toro. And of all the horror directors on the rise, because there are a lot of guys with chops who get these big opportunities, the way he commanded the direction and the shots are cool and expressive and the editing is rhythmic, but it always felt in line with everything that was going on. It was just like a really crisp example of like, wow, this was the right choice of director.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like wonderfully composed in terms of its cinematography, but it wasn't ever stylish for stylish sake.
Yeah, exactly. But it was still stylish, and it was still nightmarish and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Nun. No Curse of La 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 La, which Guillermo del Toro produced. That's why it took place in Mexico.
Totally, that's right.
All right, guys. Well, did you see Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? Would you want a sequel? Do you prefer this over It Chapter 2? Which Joker do you think is the best? Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger? You guys can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Make sure to download and follow us on the Stardust app. And I would like to give a Patron of the Day shout out to a man named Harmandeep Singh. He's been a pledge for just a short amount of time, and I'm always trying to get more words out of him, but it's kind of like pulling teeth. He's very short with his response to me, but he's very kind. I'm not going to say he's rude. He's just, very brief. He's 20 years old. He's from Vancouver, Canada. Here's a photo of his driver's license. Even though he works in construction right now, he has talked about how he wouldn't mind venturing into directing perhaps the horror genre.
Ooh.
Which I find ironic because I looked up his name and it means
horrific
person.
Soul of everyone's heart.
Oh, man.
So if anything, you should be making movies like Call Me by Your Name and not The Haunting of fill in the blank.
Yeah, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, not Ghost Ship.
Exactly. Very, very, very good. You guys
Thanks.
should collaborate.
Thanks, man. Hey, if you work construction, that's a free set right there, and construction sites are spooky anyway.
Well, that's usually what characters do at the beginning of a story before they embark on their adventure.
You should make
Or
a horror movie
or
about people making a horror movie.
or they go into hiding at the end.